Okay, I think we're good. So welcome everyone to our second Amherst College cross country and track and field team question and answer session on YouTube Live. Thanks everyone so much for coming over. I know, last week this had been advertised as Instagram Live, so thanks to everyone who was able to make the change over to YouTube Live. We really appreciate it. So tonight is all about the mid distance and cross country events. So we have on Coach Funke-Harris and Coach Neustadt and a couple of our mid-distance and cross-country student athletes. So to start it off, I'm Veronica. I'm kind of like the host of the show. I'm one of our assistant coaches. So I coached the cross-country runners in the fall. So I coached everyone here. And then I coached the long sprints during the winter and almost spring track and field seasons. And I actually graduated from Amherst last year. So Cassie coached me for 4 years, which is a really fun experience. I can tell you from experience, it's a great program, not only from a coach perspective, from a student athlete perspective. So I'm going to have our student athletes go ahead and introduce themselves and just tell us, where you're from, what your major is, all that good stuff. And then Coach Cassie and Coach Steele will go from there.
Hi, my name is Jordan Bailey Rodman. I'm from Lincoln Park, New Jersey. I'm currently a junior at Amherst College, and I'm majoring in biology on the pre-med track, and I run the 400, 600, and 800.
Hi, I'm Owen Daly. I am a sophomore. My events are the 3K mile indoors and then the steeple outdoors. I'm from Los Angeles, California, and I'm an environmental studies major.
Hi, I'm Bobby Innes Gold. I'm from Northampton, Massachusetts, which is very close to Amherst. I'm a sophomore. I'm a math major, and I do like mainly mid-distance events like the 800 and run cross country as well.
Hi, my name is Olivia Polishchuk. I'm a junior. I'm from Palos Verdes, California. I'm an American Studies major, and I primarily run the 5K and 10K and also cross country.
Hi, I'm Coach Funke-Harris. I'm originally from rural Kansas. I'm the head cross country coach, and then I'm an assistant coach during track season, and I work with the middle distance and the long distance runners. And this was my 8th year at Amherst, which is sort of hard to believe, but it's a great place.
Hi, I'm Stu Neustadt, originally from Western Springs, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. This is my first, full season at Amherst. This is my 5th total coaching, and I coach the mid-distance, distance, and cross-country folks.
So thanks everyone for those intros. Just help everyone watching just kind of get a sense of who we are. We're not just faces on the screen. And I do have the question box open. So if you have a question, feel free to send it in our way. I do want to let you know that we are 20 seconds delayed from when we're speaking on Zoom to YouTube Live. So if your question isn't addressed immediately, it's because of that. So our first question for the night is, everyone finds Amherst and chooses Amherst for their own reasons. So I would love to hear from all the student athletes. Why did you end up choosing to come to Amherst?
I can go first. So I visited Amherst College my junior year, so April, my spring break. And actually I met with Cassie, had probably an hour and a half long conversation. Then Cassie let me hang out with some of the first years. One of them was who was actually Veronica. And then later that night, I didn't do an overnight, but later that night I went to a lip sync battle, which is where we usually have room drawn. Afterwards, if you don't like your slot, you're allowed to enter with the room group and put on a performance. And then the favorite of that group ends up getting to the top of the room group. So you get to pick. And that was absolutely hysterical. The entire night was so much fun, just sitting with Veronica and some of the other teammates on the women's cross country team. Made me fall in love. So then I decided to apply early decision right after I went. I texted Cassie as I was driving to the airport and I was like, I'm coming early decision, get ready, even though it was a year and a half in advance. So that's my story.
Yeah, I can go next. I definitely really enjoyed my visit. I came at the beginning of my senior year, so I was already kind of in the middle of the college decision. And I think for me, the most important thing was getting to talk to a lot of members of the team, as well as other members of the community. I think the biggest thing was just spending a couple days on campus and just kind of pretending like I was a student there. And that really helped me fit in. Like I went to classes, I went to the dining hall, I kind of did everything with the people I was with like my future teammates. And I think that really made me feel at home. And I knew after that that this was somewhere I could really see myself for the next 4 years.
Yeah, I can go. So for me, it was sort of, I applied widely to schools that are pretty similar to Amherst in terms of academics and size. And didn't really have one in particular that I was super like set on. But then honestly, just going through the visits and stuff. I mean, it sounds sort of cliche, but I just got really like good vibes when I came I came for admitted students week and did the overnight there. I really liked all the people I met and talked to. I really liked the classes. It just felt like a good place. And somewhere I could imagine spending a few years. It was I walked onto track later in the process. So at that point, it wasn't super involved, but one of my sister's friends was a member of the team. So I was able to talk to her and she had really positive things to say about that also.
I also just had a really like positive experience when I came to visit Amherst College, just because I was able to meet with Cassie, and it was very much just immediately, she was very interested in like my own experiences and what I could personally contribute, and then what I could also gain from the school. I like fondly remember us walking, and it was just very positive for me and my family. That was my first visit during the summer, and then during the school year, I actually met Veronica, who is our assistant coach now. And again, I think for me, like the biggest standout was just the community, both on the team and off the team, and the people that I was meeting. It was just very welcoming. And I think I ended up applying EG because I did, like Olivia, really much like fall in love when I first visited. And I think that it impacted me in the way that when I'm on campus now, I try to create that same community, both when we have recruits coming on and also just meeting new people all the time.
Those are all great points, and I love the common factor between Olivia and Jordan. Love it. I'm glad I was able to help you in some small way make Amherst become your next home, because I think that's really what highlights of what Olivia said is you got a really good feeling when you came to campus, not only academically but athletically as well. So kind of on the next question that we have, it's a very common question, is what was your transition like from going from high school to college? And at the same time, Amherst is it's a pretty tough school academically, but it has a lot to offer both, academically, athletically, and extracurricularly, if that's a word. So I'm wondering, how are y'all able to balance all of your academic and athletic and extracurricular commitments while being a student athlete at Amherst?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing is just time management. I think there's definitely enough time in a day to handle classes and athletics. You just have to be willing to make sacrifices. And I think part of that is just relying on your teammates and your coaches and being completely honest about your workload, because I definitely think it is manageable if you use the support system that is Amherst. Teachers are definitely very accommodating of busy schedules, as well as the coaches. So I think for me personally, it's just being honest about how much work I have and really just focusing on cutting out what makes my experience less valuable, and just focusing on what's important, which is school and athletics.
Athletically, I thought it was a really simple transition. I had a really good conversation with Cassie early June about mileage going into the summer, because I run high mileage. I love running a ton. I usually have to be held back. And I was worried about getting injured early in the fall. And Cassie and I had a really good long conversation about what exactly my mileage would look like leading up to preseason and then the season itself. And she was so helpful. So I didn't feel overwhelmed at all. I felt really excited to go into season because I knew I could potentially have really impact the team as a freshman or as the first year. So I was excited about that. And athletically, I never got hurt. Cassie and Danny, our assistant coach at the time, and now Stu, was incredibly helpful with the transition. So athletically, it was a breeze.
I think that it definitely can be a really tough transition at first. I know like for the first couple months, like I was very overwhelmed by all the new things that was happening, like being so in charge of your own schedule as well. And even the first couple weeks there with orientation and everything, you're just bombarded with all these new people, these new things you have to remember, like everything's pretty different. But it's just like with everything, there's a learning curve and you really adjust to everything. For me, I found like academics were, I mean, definitely a lot harder than they were in high school, a lot more work. but there's also so many more resources here at Amherst than like wherever available in high school. So it's like constantly going to professors' office hours. There's lots of different tutoring available from both students and staff that are hired as well. TAs hold TA hours. So there's tons of stuff available there. And yeah, in terms of running, I found, I mean, the practice hours really aren't that different from what you're seeing on a high school schedule. Maybe there's like, I didn't have lift in high school, now I have lift now, but it's not a huge time commitment. It's a nice like break in the day from doing work. So I think it fits in really well.
I agree. I think the transition is very seamless given the rigor both academically and athletically that Amherst has. I think for me with the team, the biggest benefit was just that you have so many mentors and so many people who are older than you. And so being pre-med, there were a lot of opportunities for me to get kind of feedback and advice from seniors to sophomores, both on classes, office hours, TAs. Office hours are just the opportunities where you can meet with the professor outside the classroom. And then TA are students who have actually taken the class earlier. And those are additional kind of office hours where you can meet later in the evening to kind of just get on top of your coursework and kind of really get situated when you first come into Amherst.
And from a coach's perspective, I just add a few things. One is that if you look at our coaching staff, the majority of our coaches were Division III student athletes themselves. And so I think as a coaching staff, we really understand what that experience is like. And so, we do a lot of things like we'll have alternate practice times almost every day for somebody who has a conflict with practice or somebody who wants to go to a lecture that is going to overlap with practice or has an exam that's going to kind of cut into the end of practice time. And we have people who are coming a little bit late or people who are practicing early. We have multiple lift times throughout the day. As coaches, we will certainly consult on classes, but we're never going to tell somebody what major they can have or what classes they can take. And, we can give advice about schedules, but if somebody wants to take a class that's going to conflict with a workout day, take it, we'll figure it out. I think that's what Amherst is all about, is having a wide variety of experiences. And so we work really hard to ensure that our athletes are able to do that. We have athletes who take classes at the other 5 colleges and are able to do that. We have people who take lots of labs. We get the whole breadth of academic experiences. And I think that that's really critical to their experience. I also think it's important to note that it's pretty tough to find somebody on our team who only does sports and school and doesn't do any other activities on campus. And so again, as coaches, we understand that, and we get that there's going to be times where everything's happening at the same time, and maybe your athletics have to give a little bit to make sure that you can do all those things successfully and still race well come Saturday. And so we try to kind of keep our eyes on the prize and make sure that we're moving in the right direction, but also make sure that we understand that there are these other things that are important to the experience as well, and that we need to kind of balance all those things together.
So I think what Cassie was saying about everyone on the team being involved in something outside of the team and their schoolwork as well is super relevant. So I'd love to hear from all of you. I know what most of you do from outside of track and stuff, but tell everyone else, what are y'all doing outside of track, and make sure to kind of explain what the activity is, because I know what SAC is, but for Olivia in particular, and the wellness team for Bobby, but explain what those things are, because I know not everyone knows.
So my first year, I did Amherst dance. I'm a horrible dancer, but I thought, why not? I thought it'd be a great experience to do with Sarah, who's my year on the cross country team, Veronica and Tucker, who was a junior when I was a first year at the time, choreographed a really fun dance, and I figured, why not? So I did that my first year, and then my sophomore year as well. I had a blast, realized that dancing wasn't the thing for me. So then I joined this thing called SAC, which is Student Athlete Advisory Council. And essentially we have 2 members from each team come together, and we have meetings either once or twice a month. And essentially what we're supposed to do is like bridge the athlete, non-athlete divide, but also give the athletes on campus a voice at Amherst. So that's the big thing I'm a part of.
Yeah, Veronica mentioned the wellness team, and she was a member as well in her time here. But basically the wellness team, it's a job on campus. It's a group of like 8 or so students right now who work to promote mental health and mental health awareness on campus. We're led by currently Jessica Gifford, and she, facilitates us. So we have different activities that we do and we plan in the spirit of promoting mental health, because it can be a really stressful environment on campus. So we have like weekly meetings and plan different activities, like I said. And that's just been a really great positive way. Make some money as well. It's really easy to get a job on campus. There's tons of great jobs available, and that's been a great one for me.
I just would say quickly that one really cool thing about Amherst is that at the beginning of each year, they have this really cool like club and job fair where you can kind of go around and sign up for just about any kind of club. And it's pretty low key, like there's not really a huge commitment. So it's fun to just go around and try new things. Also, if you want to maybe form your own club, there are definitely opportunities to do so. And the school is really accommodating of whatever your interest may be and trying to find a place for it.
I think that so throughout all 3 years so far, I've kind of done a lot. It kind of includes the Title IX Review Committee. Together we are Amherst, which is a part of the SAC program. I've written for the Amherst student as a staff writer for the sports section. I work in the biology department as a research lab. I'm a Spanish tutor for the Spanish department. I've also worked as a lifeguard for the Amherst Prep Pool, and I work as a docent at the Benesky Museum. And this isn't ever all at once, but it's kind of over the past 6 semesters and just the different opportunities that kind of have presented themselves. I think it just points to that you never have to confine to one major or one experience at Amherst, and you can always keep changing. And all these experiences have been so beneficial for me, figuring out what I want to do, not only at Amherst, but after Amherst.
Yeah, thanks for sharing all of the stuff y'all do on campus. I really appreciate it. I just want to make it clear that Bobby and Olivia, I just kind of happen to have similar interests. And I, as being an older member on the team, I'd be like, hey, come do this because I think it's fun. And I think they would also, that's also how they found things, not just for me, but from other people as well. Like I'm sure Jordan heard about lifeguarding from someone else, whether it was on our team or different team or just someone else she came across on campus. So just want to make that clear. So another really common question that we got was, what's a normal life look like in the day of a student athlete at Amherst? So someone go ahead, what's kind of a normal life like when you're on campus and maybe not at home like we are now?
Yeah, so a typical day would begin, I usually wake up, and I'll wake up as late as I can while being able to make it to my first class on a typical day, because I often go to bed kind of late. But basically, I always want to get breakfast before then, though. So I'll head to Val, which is our one dining hall on campus. And I pretty much will always find some friendly faces in there, find people to sit with, which is super nice. So I'll eat a quick breakfast. I usually have some morning classes I'll head to. This semester, it was computer science and Greek mythology were my morning ones there. So go to those, and then I've always just been able to have, the way classes are scheduled, I guess I've always had like the lunch hours free for the ones I've taken. So after my morning classes, I'll often just go straight to lunch, or I'll go to the library first maybe and do work. But I'll sit in Val for a while, just eating lunch, hanging out, talking to people. And then I'll usually head to my afternoon classes, which this semester I had linear algebra and data science in that. On different days, it's not always the same day. But yeah, and then toward later in the afternoon, we have practice, usually at 4:15. So head on down to the gym for that. And after practice, shower and then walk to Val again for dinner, which is super nice to just sort of hang out in there after for honestly a pretty long time usually. It's nice to just get your meal, get lots of meals, and just relax and hang out in there after a long day. And then depending on how much work I have, I'll either go to a more isolated study space. So maybe I don't know, if I have a lot of work, I'd go to a lower level of our library, Frost, or an enclosed pod in the science center. But if I don't have quite as much work, maybe I'll do a social study, get a study group with some friends, maybe go to Schwemm's, which is our late night food place in our student center, and do some work, depending on how productive that is. Kind of depends when I go to bed, but then at some point that. And then, yeah, go to bed, wake up and do it all over again. And that's a typical day.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Bobby. And I think a great common theme of that is Val, which is our dining hall, which everyone on campus loves. Even us coaches go and eat there for lunch every day. And I don't want to speak for Cassie or Stu, but I certainly miss going to Val every day for lunch. So looking forward to we can eventually do that. So yeah, thanks, Bobby. And another really common question we got was, what does housing look like and kind of how does it work at Amherst? And do you have to live with teammates? Are you assigned teammates when you first come in? So could someone answer that for me?
Yeah, so I've had the best experience with housing, so I'll take this question. So your freshman year, you're assigned a specific dorm. So there's a freshman quad of about, I think, 6 dorms. And so I think actually this past year, you are allowed to choose your own roommate. So that's a new addition, but you kind of are sent into each of these dorms, and it's one of the best experience I think on campus because it's a really like close-knit community and the entire grade is there at once, and there's a freshman quad. So this one central part of campus is really popular freshman year. But then after that, you're part of room selection or room draw, which is where you're assigned a number based off randomly, but based off your grade. And then after that, when you're given your number at a specific time, you're allowed to pick which dorm on campus you want to live in. And so this year I lived in Greenway with my best friend, Sophia. She lived on the floor below me. We were also roommates last year together. And what was really, really nice, I think, about living in Greenway was it was juniors and sophomores were in the dormitory together. And so it's 4 buildings that are new on campus. And so I had a single and Sophia had a single, but then there were sophomores who had a 2-room double. And then there was another sophomore suite, which was just the room for video games, bachelor night. It was kind of the hot spot, I would say. But then at the same time, there's a middle distance group 2 of boys, and they were living in the dorm next to me, also Greenway. And so I think that there are a lot of times you do not have to live with your teammates, but there are so many of us, and there's only a certain amount of dorms you can live in, and so it is really nice, I think, to just have those people close to you, but at the same time be in a space with other classmates as well. And I think that going forward, I know a lot of the freshmen are also trying to live in Greenway, so I think it just points to like the culture that we created, where we were living, what we promoted, what we wanted. And I think that I'm excited for next year.
Awesome. Thanks, Jordan. So another question we actually just got in the comments from Kay Crawford is, so their question is there much to do in terms of outdoor sports around Amherst, like skiing or rock climbing? And also kind of tie that to question of like, are there any fun things to do off campus in the Amherst area?
Yeah, so I'm not on the skiing team. I'm personally really uncoordinated, but I know we do have a fun club ski team that often goes up to go skiing in Vermont, sometimes New York. And then in terms of off-campus activities, we have a lot of fun ones. So fun fact about Amherst, there's actually 3 boba places. And one of my best friends on my team, Maya, and I are obsessed with boba. So every week we love going to a different boba place and trying it out. Then also I call it the Disneyland of Massachusetts. It's the Yankee Candle Store. It's 30 minutes away from Amherst. It is amazing. You go in, I've gotten lost in there for 3 hours. There's a Build-A-Bear in there. You can smell 100 different candles. Then there's a whole area that snow comes out of the ceiling. It's wild. I love it. My team and I have been there several times. We always talk about how we have to go even when it's not Christmas, but when it's Christmas time, you really have to go. And then I'm from California and we have considerably the best tacos, but there's a place from 2 miles from Amherst called Mission Cantina. It has better tacos than we do. They're that good. So I love going there a lot as well. That's one of my favorite places. And lastly, Vermont's also really close to Amherst. So one of my best friends and I did a day trip where we just went to Vermont. We got maple syrup. We went on a random adventure and had pizza in a Turkish rug store, and it was one of the best days of my life. So something that only you could really do if you went to Amherst.
Thanks for answering that question, Olivia. I hadn't even known that, the team has gone to Yankee Candle Factory in recent years. So I know it's a super fun place to go, and I've heard nothing but good things about it. So that's awesome. So another really common question we got was, what are some fun activities that the team likes to do together? And also what's maybe your favorite team tradition?
Yeah, I will say my favorite team tradition is definitely the Sunday morning long run. The whole team kind of gathers at the same time, and I know it may sound like a long run is not the most fun tradition to do every week, but when you have such a big group of people, it's really fun to just relax and kind of unwind after a long week, especially after a race. It's fun to just joke around with teammates on a run and just remember like why we love running in the first place, and that's the community, the team. And then at the end, you can go to Valor Dining Hall, and then we'll just pig out on as much breakfast food as we can eat before we have to start our homework. So it's just kind of a fun way that we know every Sunday, rain or shine, we'll see each other after a race, and just kind of relax and enjoy running.
Awesome. Thanks, Owen. So another really common question we got, I know a lot of y'all had really similar questions, which is great, was, what's the team culture like? And, I think Owen was saying, the team likes to long run, which is, kind of part of practice, but is the day of the week that the distance and mid-distance runners do not meet with coaches. So we're not there to monitor that, to be clear. But I'm also wondering, what else does the team do outside of practice for fun and to get to know each other and bond?
We do a lot of fun things. So the weekend before regionals is really big for us. We usually get really excited for cross country. And one of my favorite memories of this past fall, we watched Crazy Rich Asians with our men's team. And it was so much fun. Half of us were crying by the end of it. And then the women's team were ready to go back home and go to bed. And then the guys were like, hold up, wait, we need to show you something. They didn't give us any explanation as to what it was. And then they turned on this video called the Crab Rave. And I've never laughed harder in my life. It was just a bunch of crabs dancing to EDM, but it was one of the funniest experiences of my life. And the fact that like all 30 of us were crammed in this room together, just laughing hysterically, was one of my favorite moments of Amherst ever.
I would say there's lots of bonding as well around, like I guess Olivia mentioned, but watching TV shows and movies together. So I think of a couple different things. So Olivia and I are both big fans of Survivor. So there's a group of us that watch Survivor every week, all on the team, and we're all big fans of the show. We get really into that. There's a big cohort that watches The Bachelor weekly, and we're around over interterm, which is like beginning of January, pretty much the whole month. Before everyone else comes back, we're on campus, and there's not a ton of other people there. So it's super fun. And it's like a big period of bonding for the team, I would say. We do a lot of things together then, watching a lot of movies as well, and doing different activities. So thinking about interterm as well, there's like sanctioned stuff, like we'll go and play laser tag, we'll go bowling. People maybe are going out to eat more then. So tons of fun stuff happens then, and it's a big period of bonding, I'd say.
I think something really important to our team is inclusivity, and just the idea that we take in everyone and we just create an environment that's very welcoming to everyone, regardless of their identities. Bobby mentioned we do a lot of fun activities during intern, including board games. I'm winning right now, but I think at the same time, we also spend a lot of time looking at mental health, race, gender, just a lot of our different identities and the conversations that we have surrounding them. And I think it points to the fact that we aren't afraid to kind of have the difficult conversations that are very necessary, especially for a team so big and so diverse. I know a lot of our teammates are also part of CACSAC, myself included, which is just the Council of Amherst College Student Athletes of Color. And it's just an environment and a space where a lot of the people on the team will also go once a week and we meet. And again, it's just the environment that you create and the environment that we want to support and the culture that we want to promote. And I think it says a lot that so many people on our team are a part of it and we carry the same values to our team.
I think my favorite off-campus thing that we do is getting food in town. There's a lot of really good restaurants in the town of Amherst. So it's fun to just get away from the cafeteria for a little bit. My personal favorite is Chili's. Really good food, not super expensive, but that's one of many options around the area. So it's fun to just get a group of teammates together and just kind of relax, get out of the cafeteria, like I said.
Nice. Yeah. And I think something that, Jordan kind of brought up is that this team is a really, from experience, I can tell you it's a really supportive team, but I'm wondering, what have all of your experiences been like, being on, we're a pretty large team. We are about 100 people, but it's always to me felt like a family. So I'm wondering, in your experience, what has the team felt like to you?
To me, the team feels like family. When we talk to recruits, I think something that's really important that we mention it's just how exciting track is, because cross country is a smaller group of us, about 20 women, 20 men. And then we come to track. Track's the best time of year, truly, because that's when everyone's on the track out there working out, doing their own thing. And one of my favorite things, especially, is indoor, where you're just running loops around each other and everyone's screaming for each other's names. I just think the energy is always so great and it's so supportive. And while we are really competitive with ourselves, we're not necessarily the most competitive with each other, because we want to push ourselves and we want to push our teammates too, but just to be the best that we can and to make sure that they're the best they can. So I think it's really loving and really supportive and competitive in the most healthy way.
I agree. I think junior year, I transitioned from long sprints to middle distance, and it was definitely a jump in mileage and just the training overall. But what was so, I think, helpful for me was just how welcoming everyone was in the culture. And I think that it points to, like, there are a lot of different event groups on a track team, but we're all still one team and we all still welcome each other equally. And I think that that jump was in and of itself so much easier because I did have that family. I did have that close experience with both the men's and the women's side.
Yeah. I think it's so awesome to have, like, I mean, it's a huge team. So it's really awesome to have, like, I don't know, like 100 friends. Like, you can just see around campus. Everyone says hi to you. It makes you feel really popular. Just to, like, know so many people. And it's really awesome to have, like, all these role models and people to look up to. You can ask for advice because everyone brings so much different collective experience and perspectives. And it's really cool. It's just a really awesome group of people. And definitely like a family. Everyone's super close.
Yeah, Bob, you touched on this a little bit, but it's nice to get advice from older people on the team, especially about classes. I think since our team is so big, it's almost guaranteed that you're going to have at least one member of the team in every class you take. So that's nice to, at least if you don't know anyone, you at least have someone to sit with. Or it's also very beneficial to talk about classes when you're signing up, so you kind of know what you're getting yourself into. You can ask people about teachers or experiences they've had. And yeah, it kind of helps just to feel like you have someone who can just show you the ropes a little bit, especially, I mean, on the team, but in classes as well.
Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate that. And then this question just came in. This one's going to be specifically for Owen and Olivia, because the question from Kate is, is anyone from a warmer climate, and what is it like transitioning from a warmer climate to maybe a bit of a colder one in Amherst? I know Jordan's from New Jersey and Bobby's from right next to Amherst, so I feel like Olivia and Owen are much better suited to answer this one.
Oh, I love this question. Yeah, so I'm from right outside of Los Angeles. I've never been to the East Coast really, but I love the cold. Well, not that cold in Amherst, first of all, but I love the falls in Amherst. The falls in Amherst are absolutely breathtaking. When all the leaves start to change, it really does feel like a true fall rather than where somewhere it's warm. It's always gorgeous, but you don't get the entire feel of what it really feels like as a fall. In terms of cold, I personally love it. I think it's very simple to run in. It's never to the point where it's too cold, I don't think, but I like the cold a lot. And I think it's a nice change, because if you're from somewhere warmer, you'll always be able to come back to that when you have winter break or Thanksgiving break. But to be able to experience it at college, I think is really a wonderful thing. And I'm so happy I went to Amherst.
Yeah, I think a lot of people ask me, like, how can you run in the Northeastern winter? And they're so shocked to hear that I run every day, in December and January. But I think it's just something that is a fun new experience. Like, for me, I think the first couple runs were a little bit scary, but it's just exciting to be in a different climate. Like, I remember I was walking out of the dining hall with one of my friends, Will, and I saw snow falling for the first time. And he's from Philadelphia, so he was so shocked that I was like freaking out at seeing that. So it's just a cool new experience. I think college is such a good time to try something new. And, I've learned so much about the different people and the different environment just being so far away from home. So I think it's just cool to, try something new.
Awesome. Thank you to both of our LA residents on the call. So this question is for Coach Funke-Harris and Coach Neustadt, and this one is about training. So I'm wondering if you could just kind of run everyone down with, how does training work for you? Maybe if you're a Jordan who doesn't do cross country, but she'll run the 800 and the 600 and stuff during the indoor and outdoor season, then for a cross country runner as well.
Sure, I can start on this one. So we typically have a group of middle distance runners that don't do cross country. So Jordan's a part of that group, and Bobby was until this year as well. And those guys work out together starting when they get back in the fall for captain's practices until we start official practices in November. And we give them some guidance as far as what to do, but it's a little more loosey goosey, captain upperclassman led. And then once we get going in November, it's really just base building for those guys and getting ready for the long track season and trying to get them started doing a variety of different types of workouts. We do some short tempo workouts, we do some short speed workouts, but it's all really progressive and it all has a really nice build for all those different types of workouts, so that we're building up to a point that we can do more intense workouts later once the season really gets going. For our cross country athletes, we send them out summer training that they can do wherever they are, and we typically interact with them a decent amount kind of on the front end to figure out, okay, where are you going to be? What are you going to have access to? What's going to work for you this summer based on your schedule and what you're up to? And how do we build on the success that you've had and build on what's worked for you in the past, but keep challenging you and keep moving you forward. And so they kind of do that on their own. I know the team does a lot of interacting with each other over the summer. They can ask us questions if they have them. And then we all get back to campus for cross country season in the fall. Once cross country season's over, different people like this a different amount, and maybe our cross country people can chime in on this later, but we make them take a little break when cross country season's over. I always really want them to take 2 weeks off. It's always a battle. If I can get 1 week totally off and then another week easing back in, I'm usually happy. And then we start kind of building back up for track season, and again, kind of starting gradually, but building up to a point where we can start doing workouts of different intensities when we come back, like Bobby was talking about in January for interterm. Stu, maybe do you want to talk about different types of workouts, since I covered kind of broad overview?
Yeah, definitely. I think the one great thing about Amherst is we have a lot of different areas where we can go do workouts. We can go to a cemetery, which can be creepy at times, but it's a great little loop. We can go over to UMass and utilize their cross-country course, which is great to simulate some cross-country type races. And then there's areas on campus where we can stay as well. Right outside the building where we host practices, we can go around the soccer fields, and there's trails back there as well. Unfortunately, they were under construction this year, so we couldn't utilize them. And then there's also a bike path as well. But for workouts in cross country, it kind of depends kind of where we are in the season, what we want to get out of it, and what's coming up. And so kind of middle of the season, we're looking at some kind of longer repeats, such as 2K repeats or 1500 meter repeats, and they'll kind of progress down as the season goes on. And then as well, we like to kind of keep our tempos a little bit higher in the middle of the season, especially when we're not racing. And we'll be able to go do that either on the bike path, or we can go over to Northampton Airport, which I think a lot of people enjoy. It's this dirt road, no cars are there. And it's just great to be able to go over there and, get as much tempo work in as we can. Which I think is nice to kind of get off campus, especially during longer tempos.
Yeah, thanks for answering those questions, Cassie and Stu. And some other questions we also had were, what time does practice usually meet? Do the men and women practice together? And how large is the distance group?
Yeah, so we do have both genders practice together. During cross country season, I think somebody may have mentioned this before, we've got about 20 women and 20 men, and then that other middle distance group comes and joins us during track season, and there's anywhere from like 5 to 10 people total in that group, kind of depending on the year. We typically start at 4:15. Practice goes for anywhere from probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours, typically probably closer to 2 hours, although it's pretty rare for us to go longer than that, unless people are just hanging out having too good of a time and they just don't want to leave, which never happens, right, guys? So yeah, I don't remember what else you asked, Veronica, but yeah, that's a pretty typical kind of overview.
No, yeah, that answered all my questions. And another question we had was from Margaret, I believe, and she was asking, what does mileage look like for an incoming first year potentially who'd be running cross country? And also, what does the team lift, and how does that work for, not only a first year, but also someone who's returning to the team?
That's a great question. And there's no simple answer to that because it really depends on what the person's done in high school. So Olivia talked about how she was pretty high mileage in high school. So for her, her freshman year, she was probably doing a lot more than somebody else who was really low mileage in high school. We don't have a set answer to that question. I typically talk to people when they graduate from high school and say, okay, what have you done in the past? And we don't really mess with that too much their first year because we figure that your freshman year, you're already adjusting to a lot. For a lot of people, it's the first time they've lived on their own and they're away from mom and dad. And they've got to get themselves to bed at night. They have to get themselves up in the morning and kind of take care of their schedule. And academics are more and different and harder. And they've got new teammates and new competitions, and the competition level is usually a little bit higher. And so everything's just a little bit more stressful and a little bit different. It's just a little bit of something to get used to kind of all around in all different facets of their lives. And so we figured that if we can keep from piling a whole bunch of mileage on them, that's one way to not end up injured, not end up sick. And we can probably keep our freshmen healthy, our first years healthy, through the whole year and keep them contributing and keep them progressing. So we try hard to keep pushing them without overdoing it. As far as lifting, we start lifting over the summer. We have a fabulous strength and conditioning coach who works with all of our athletic teams. And he really works with us as coaches to customize what our team is doing lifting wise so that it fits our sport and fits the demands of what we need to do. So our athletes start that over the summer so that they're prepared when they get back to jump right into lifting, as well as doing workouts and racing and everything else that they're doing when they start the school year. And throughout the school year, we lift twice a week. Occasionally, depending on what time of year it is, we might have a third circuit day that they do in addition to that. That's usually optional, but a lot of people choose to do that. And lifting, I would say, is a pretty big part of our program. We're not trying to get huge. We're not trying to be bodybuilders, but we do want to be strong. And even our 10K runners need to sprint at the end of the race. So we got to be fast. We got to be strong to do that. So we have a different emphasis depending on the time of year. We really want to be getting, stronger over the summer, and then just trying to get kind of sharper and more fit once we get back into the season. But it's important no matter what part of the year we're in.
Awesome. And another question on training is, are team members expected to be on campus during the summer to train? And also, if someone goes abroad, how does that affect training? And maybe if you could also talk about what going abroad looks like while also being a member on the team.
Sure. So nobody's expected to stay on campus over the summer, although we inevitably have some people who do stay on campus for the summer, whether because they're doing research with a professor or because they have found a student job on campus that they just want to stay on campus for the summer. I typically find that the people who stay on stay on campus for the summer really enjoy it because they can run on the same trails that they already know, and they can lift in the weight room, and they're in a really familiar environment, and they're not having to figure out a whole new place and figure out where to work out. So typically the people who stay on campus for the summer really have great training, but they definitely don't have to. And it's typically a pretty small number relative to the total number of people on our team that stay on campus for the summer. And then what was the second part of that question, Veronica?
If people go abroad, how does it affect training, and what does abroad look like? And are you allowed to go abroad while also being a member of the team?
Yep, absolutely. So we always have people going abroad. It's funny how, typically the people who are cross country runners maybe are more likely to go during the summer or more likely to go during track season. People who don't do cross country are probably going abroad in the fall, but we always tell them, you go when the program is that you want to go on. And if you're a cross country runner and it's a program that goes in the fall, with tears in my eyes, I'll write that letter of recommendation for you to send you off to that cool location because that's part of this experience. So, we know that that's part of why people choose a Division III school sometimes, is to have the opportunity to do that. And when else in your life are you going to be able to do this? So we definitely support people wanting to go abroad. What training looks like while they're abroad really depends on where they are. And again, kind of what they have access to and what they feel safe and comfortable doing. So, we have people who study abroad in places that are very runner friendly, and they're able to get in great training almost as if they were here. And then we have people who spend a semester on a boat and they're not really running because they can't. And so their semester looks very different. And so it just depends a lot on who you are and where you're going. But we're always available again over email. If people have questions, if they want advice, I've definitely given people some kind of rough training guidance of, here's kind of a sample progression, and you can, see how things progress and see how you're able to do this, but here are some ideas of things that you can do, and then they kind of implement it however it makes sense once they get there.
Awesome. Thanks, Cassie. And another question we had, not away from training, is racing. So a lot of people were wondering, what does the racing schedule and calendar look like, and what does travel look like to meets and races, along with, potentially missing classes, or if that's a thing or if that's not a thing.
Yeah, so we try really hard to avoid missing classes whenever we can. The second half of our season, both in cross country and in track, both indoor and outdoor, is made up of championship meets, and so to some extent, it just depends on who's hosting those meets. We don't really get to choose. So if it's one of the conference schools that's hosting NESCACs that's close to us, then we don't have to travel very far. If it's somebody who's a little further away, we're probably getting on a bus and going up the night before and staying overnight, which I think for the athletes is probably pretty fun to get to go stay in a hotel and do a little bit of traveling. But we try to minimize that earlier in the season, knowing that that could be part of our season later on. And so as coaches, we're typically trying to find good meets that are close. We're really fortunate that Amherst's location makes that very easy because there are great meets in Boston. It's less than 2 hours away. It's like an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes, depending on where we're going. So we can access some of the best meets in the world or in the country, and some of the best teams in our division, and really, have some great opportunities to compete without having to do very much traveling. As far as practice goes, we never miss class for practice, so the missed class time is really not much of an issue for our sport. If it is an issue and there's a class that somebody has to miss for a meet, and it's a class they can't miss, or if the professor says, hey, I really need you to be here, we're taking an exam, we let them go to class, and we just work their racing schedule around that meet, and assume that they're not racing that week, and we figure out something else. So we're pretty flexible when we know about it, and it's all about just good communication and working together to figure out a schedule that works.
Awesome, thanks. So another question I was wondering, Stu, if you can answer this one, is if you don't find yourself in the top 7 in cross country, do you still have opportunities to race throughout the fall, and what does that look like?
Yeah, one thing that's different about college cross country than maybe high school is that there's going to be a lot of possibilities to race. Some meets we'll go to, we'll take our top 10, but then we can have everyone else jump in the other race. It really isn't until NESCACs, our conference meet, is when we have to decide who's going to race. And even then, it's the top 15 are racing there. And then moving on to regionals and nationals, that's when it's our classic top 7. But altogether, you should get, 4 to 6 races before we have to cut things down. I guess not cut things down, just decide who's racing.
Yeah, thanks, Stu. I also want to add on to that the college cross-country calendar looks very similar to the high school cross-country calendar, where NESCACs for us, which is our conference meet, where our top 15 can race, that's always about the last weekend of October. And then for regionals for us, which is where we can actually only race our top 7, and we usually travel an Austin or 2 just in case things happen. That's about mid-November, and then the week following, the week right before Thanksgiving, is cross-country nationals. So it's pretty similar to the high school calendar, so to make that clear to everyone that we're not going into December or anything, it's very similar to what your experience has been in high school. So another question that we just got, oh wait, Stu, hop in.
Yeah, I should add, we don't have any dual meets, so we're not going to be racing during the week. And then we also don't race every weekend like in high school. It's mostly every other weekend. So we can a little bit focus more on the training aspects of things rather than having to race every single weekend.
Yeah, that's a good point, Stu. Thanks for bringing that up. And I think also something that we'd also want to bring up is that even, in cross country and track season, very rarely are people racing 2 weekends back to back. It's really, in cross country, the races are almost always every other weekend, with the exception of regionals and nationals, which are back to back. And in track as well, usually people will, maybe race 2 weekends in a row, but probably more or less every other weekend. Do you have anything else to add on to that, Cassie? I can see you nodding on my end.
Yeah, I would say for our group, for middle distance and distance, I would say most people are probably racing 2 weekends in a row and then taking a week off during during track season. And it really just depends on the person. So one of the things that I do at the beginning of the season is Stu and I sit down with each person and we kind of come up with a tentative race schedule and kind of figure out, okay, what are the ones that we're most focused on and what are the ones that we're most kind of gearing your training around and most excited about, and what are some of those kind of ancillary meets that are important to kind of build us up to that point, but maybe aren't going to take quite as much mental focus. And then what are the weekends that you're going to take off, knowing full well that, you know, you might get sick or you may end up with a really busy academic week that you didn't expect, and that plan may need to change, but at least it gives us some sort of framework to start from. And we certainly are planning meets off along the way into that plan, but it's a little bit different for each person. So when you look at our meet schedule for track, it looks like we start competing in the beginning of January and we just go pretty much straight through to the end of May. But if you were to look at an individual person and kind of look at, you know, what does Olivia's race schedule look like? What does Bobby's race schedule look like? There certainly are meets off kind of planned into that.
Thanks, Cassie. So another, this is kind of a combo question, is people were wondering, you know, how this is with the student athletes, how are y'all being supported during this crazy time, not only by Amherst, but by your teammates and peers? And then also, what's the academic support like, not only now when you're away from campus, but also when you're on campus? What are some usual, or who are some other people that you reach out to when you're encountering a challenge, not only academically, but maybe personally as well?
Well, I've been home. It's honestly been phenomenal. The communication between my professors, my academic advisor has also been super helpful. So your first year, you're assigned an academic advisor, but after your sophomore year, when you declare your major, you get to choose your own. So I've been corresponding with my academic advisor. He's lovely. He's been incredibly helpful. We've talked about what courses I want to take in the fall, as well as just my own personal life. And then he knows that I run cross country, so he always checks in and cares about that. Veronica had the same advisor, of course. So she loves him too. And honestly, professors have been so great. They email me all the time. They're super accommodating if you don't have access to Wi-Fi, because that's definitely a problem for some people. But overall, I think classes on Zoom, professors have been absolutely phenomenal. And not only that, but they really want to make sure you're doing okay as a person before, and you're prioritizing more as a person before you are as a student, which is huge.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a super hard time for everyone. And it's just pretty uncharted territory, I think, for professors and everyone who's doing their job from Amherst, but everyone's doing their best, and I think they're doing a really great job given the circumstances. You know, there's still office hours, and most classes are still run through Zoom, and you can still get in contact with professors. Like Olivia said, everyone's been a lot more flexible and lenient about deadlines and like what people can commit to and get done, and grading standards even. So given the circumstances, I think it's been great. Yeah, in terms of support on campus, I would just say, again, professors, staff on campus are really great resources. The team, again, is a really great community because people are from different groups across campus and have access to a lot of things. And in terms of the coaches are a great resource as well. I also shout out the counseling center is a really valuable resource for support on campus.
Yeah, I've just been really appreciative that so many resources are now available online, and Amherst College is really making sure that you have the accessibility to everything that you would have on campus, off campus now. And I think that same thing for Olivia. I've been in really close contact with a lot of my professors and advisor. And so it's very comforting because we're all kind of going through this together, faculty, staff, students, and for them to make themselves equally available, it does make this experience, I think, a lot better, at least some semblance of normal.
I think on-campus resources, for me, the biggest difference between high school and college, that I really have a connection with my professors. And it's really great because Bobby talked about office hours earlier. If I have maybe 20 minutes in between classes, I'll just stop by one of my professor's office hours, even if I don't really have a pressing question, just to maybe talk about the material, just kind of honestly chat and just sort of connect with them, because that's something that I never really got in high school just because there's so much going on. But I think the professors really help with filling that free time and kind of just gaining that extra understanding that you might not get in class.
One more thing I wanted to add too, something that our women's cross country team's been doing is every Friday we have a fun team optional Zoom where anyone who wants can come on and chat. So either some of our seniors that are graduating, like Kristen, Jenny, Sylvia, and Maya, and then also incoming first years can join. And we just do a fun catch up just to make sure that everyone's doing okay. We vent, we talk about New Music Friday, what shows we're watching. Sarah and I made a team bingo, which was really fun. So we just want to keep it light and airy and just make sure that everyone is doing okay. And if you're not doing okay, that it's okay to talk about it and to know that you're not alone and that we're there for you.
Thanks so much for all of your honesty in that, everyone. I know it's been a really tough time, especially to be a college student when you're so far from your second home, which can oftentimes really feel like a first home when you get so close with everyone around you, which is really valuable. So last question of the night. So to anyone who just submitted a question the last couple of minutes, I'm sorry, we don't have enough time because we want to keep this pretty under normal time period. This is for everyone. So for the student athletes, what's your favorite part of being on the Amherst team? And for the coaches, what's your favorite part of coaching the team?
My favorite part of Amherst is definitely the team itself. So I think that's a hard question to say, but overall, I would just say how supportive and loving everyone is. I think everyone does such a great job caring about each other. It's amazing how many people I've kept in touch with while I've been home. Just the amount of love and support and how much everyone truly, genuinely cares about each other is really heartwarming, and it's so special to have on a team. So I'm really grateful for everyone. I miss everyone so much. I really hope we're back in the fall.
Yeah, I think my favorite part of the team is definitely the people. It's really hard to be at home and not seeing everyone every day. I didn't really realize how much that was a part of my life. And yeah, I think in high school, my team was very small and not everyone really cared about the sport. So it's really nice to have a group of people that's all super committed and everyone really has the same goal. And it's nice to just be able to share this thing that I love with people that love it too. So yeah.
I'll go. So my favorite thing of coaching at Amherst is definitely seeing the ability for our student athletes to balance out their college experience. I mean, as Owen said, it's a very committed team, but not only are they committed to each other and the team and running, but they're committed to their academics, and it really shows in the team GPAs, and also what these student athletes are doing after they leave Amherst. I think it's just, really cool to see what they want to do and what they want to get out of this experience and not have to sacrifice anything to do that.
Yeah, I was minding my own business in January. I was running, I was doing a good job. And then next thing I knew, Coach Cassie kind of put me in at X time. And it's all fun and games until you're like on the line. And then you kind of like just feel the adrenaline, feel the pressure. I just remember I don't have a really good poker face. And so I was on the line, lined up to these other girls. And Cassie looks at me, and across the ref, the other girls, the other coaches, like everyone, she goes, "Jordan, you got this." And it was just like the most heartfelt and just so genuine, and just the faith that she had in me, it translates not only like in that one meet, but just through all of training and like even just at Amherst. And it was like that same conversation we had when I first came, and it was very much just full circle, and it made me just feel just so excited and so happy. And the nerves they were still there, honestly, but it made it just better. And it was just really exciting. I think that moment for me was kind of just, it made me realize again, like why I chose Amherst and why I wanted to be on the team. It's just the support that you get.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to repeat what other people have said here, but I really can't think of any other answer than besides as the best part of the team for me is the group of people. It is the actual team itself. And it's just awesome to get to run with your friends every day. I've made so many of my closest friends through the team. And yeah, it's just we're on like a really similar schedule, so we get to do a lot of things together because it just works out really easy that way in terms of getting meals, studying together. And it's just an awesome group to be a part of, a great support system.
I have two favorite things, which is sort of a cop out when you're asked to pick your one favorite thing. But I really just love our team, and I love the people on our team, and being at practice is my favorite part of the day. And I really miss seeing everybody right now, and doing this is actually great because I get to see at least these friendly faces for an hour. But I really love the people that we have on the team. I love seeing who they are when they get here at 18, and then seeing who they develop into by the time they graduate, and seeing how much growth and the changes in their personality and how prepared they are to go out into the world and do really amazing things. It's just really incredible, and it's really fun to get to be a part of that and to get to see that growth through running, and to get to see how much they change over those 4 years is just amazing. And it's my favorite part of my job. The second thing that I really love about it is that I love that for where we are, we get to be competitive with some of the with some Division I teams out there, you know, and we can go to meets and we can beat Division I teams, and we are amongst the best in Division III. And that's a really fun position to be in, because I think it allows our athletes to come from, you know, we have people who come from really competitive high school situations, and they can come be really successful here. And I think that's just really fun. And what an amazing way to spend 4 years, and what a special experience for our student athletes. And, you know, to get to come get one of the best educations in the world and combine that with this really competitive athletic experience is just a very special thing that you really can't replicate after you graduate. And so again, as a coach, to just get to be a part of that for 4 years, and to get to be a part of all those really special competitive moments with each one of these people, it's really awesome. And you know, it doesn't even matter who it is on the team. If it's somebody who's qualifying for their first conference meet in track, they're really excited about that. And as a coach, you get really excited about that and really fired up. And simultaneously, you have somebody else who's qualifying for their first national meet, and they're really fired up, and you're really fired up to be a part of that too. And it's just so fun to see your athletes setting all these different goals, and to watch them and help them achieve those, no matter what those goals are, is really special, and something that I don't take for granted. And especially in a time like this where we're not getting to do that, just really hits home even more how special it is when we do get to do it, and how awesome this experience that all of us get to have really is.
Well, thanks so much for all your responses, everyone. I think from knowing all of you, individually and personally, I know that they're all telling the truth. For everyone watching, I promise they're not lying. I know them all well, and I think their honesty really shows a lot about, what the experience of being a student athlete at Amherst is like, and how, lovely of a place it is, and how special it is to be a member of this team. So I also want to address, I know a couple of y'all had questions kind of about what, the recruiting process and maybe some changes with everything going on right now. And for that, I would say just shoot, myself, Stu, or Cassie an email. Cassie and Stu are definitely your best resource for the mid-distance and long-distance recruiting. I'm not quite handling that. So both of their emails and my email as well are on the Amherst Athletics website. Cassie's is Funke-Harris at amherst.edu, and Stu's is snewstat at amherst.edu. So shoot them an email, and they can answer your question on a more individual level, which is much more helpful than kind of addressing on a broad level, because everyone's, their own story. So thank you to everyone so much for tuning in tonight. We really, really appreciate it. And next Sunday, we're going to be talking with our jumpers, throwers, and multi-eventers. And then the following, no, it's Friday, Sunday. Oh gosh, quarantine's getting to me. So that's next Sunday. And then the following Sunday, we'll be talking to a couple of our first years from a couple of the event groups, just so y'all can get an idea for what it's really been like to transition. Because I know, everyone in this chat feels like they were a first year just, the other day, but in reality, it's been a little bit longer than that. So we figured we'd talk to the current first years, especially because they're going through this crazy time right now. So again, thank you so much for coming, and let us know if you have any questions going forward, and shooting us an email, and or DM us on Instagram. We have that question box pretty open. You can submit questions on there as well. So yeah, have a great night. And if you're trying to watch Michael Jordan, the documentary, go ahead, enjoy it. Bye, everyone.